Live from the great Ottoman Empire, it's the Extra Otter Show with your host, Freedom Otter. With special guest, Kostas Moros. And now, here's Freedom.
How's it going, everybody? Freedom Otter here. Hope you're having a great night. It's Friday. We made it. Another week has finally succumbed to the power of the weekend and play our drums like Todd Rundgren does and just be a total spaz if you want. But anyway, thanks for joining me on the show. Make sure you like, share, follow the show as well as the channel. Make sure you get the word out there. Check out the show notes down below. I got my Discord. You can join there. Our 2A community that we're building from the ground up. Be great to hear your thoughts and opinions about everything going on and the stuff that I cover, especially about the show. And don't forget, I got a merch store that not only helps out with my gaming channel, also helps out with this channel. Subscriptions for content like over at Bearing Arms, as well as for new hardware. I got some new hardware coming I posted about. So things are going to be a lot better. I'm going to be able to do a lot more stuff. And then, of course, just building up the studio in general. From there. So head on over to ottomanempire.creator-spring.com and check out all the goodies and see if there's anything there that you like. Now, I know you came on here, you were expecting, Rich, Freedom, you were going to do something kind of different today. Yes, this is a show that I'm doing that's a little bit different. We've got a couple Fridays back we had a guest host, but now we actually have an actual live guest. Yes, I've checked him for a pulse. He's alive. He's kicking. He's not a zombie. There's no necromancy going on here. He's a real live human. It's Kostas Moros. It is the gentleman that we all know and love from Twitter. Kostas, go ahead. You can unmute yourself. I thought I could unmute you, but I can't.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Perfect.
Welcome to the first episode of Extra Otter. This is a little sub segment I've created for the Freedom Otter Show. Thanks for being on. I really do appreciate it.
I didn't realize I was the first ever guest. That's an honor. Thanks for having me.
Real guest. I mean, last time we had Necromav from Twitter as a co-host, which is great. I'm always looking for a co-host. By the way, it's an open invite. If you ever got a free night and you want to join, you're more than welcome. Just let me know. We'll make it happen. But I also wanted to talk about, I just wanted to kind of give you a quick little intro here, and I'm gonna throw up not throw up, but I'm actually gonna show off a little bit here of your bona fides in regards to who you are. So I'm sure there's going to be, come on, click. There we go. There's going to be some people that don't know who you are. It says here you're a popular social media commentator, accomplished attorney specializing in general civil litigation, and you're over at Michael and Associates. You got your bachelor's degree in political science from the University of California, San Diego in 2011, followed your Juris Doctorate from California Western School of Law in 2014. You've contributed to several high-profile victories for gun rights litigants, which is what I think a lot of us know you from, including cases vindicating the right to carry, others affecting the types of firearms Californians can purchase and possess, and even one that stopped California from blocking access to the courts for Second Amendment claims. You, sir, are a steely-eyed missile man, as they used to say at NASA back in the day. So what was it that encouraged you to get into law? What was that thing?
Oh, it was a huge mistake. I never should have done it. But no, I want to say first, it's funny. I didn't write that, and it's funny that social media commentator is before lawyer. But that just goes to show where my priorities have been, and I guess my colleagues are noticing and thought they'd make fun. Yeah. But what got me into law was basically that I don't think I'd be very useful in any other field. I'm not really great at fixing things.
You too.
I can't. I did restaurants for several years. I was in much better shape when I worked in restaurants because I was walking all the time. So I guess I should have stuck to that for health reasons. But in terms of like making a living and being good at something, I have the probably emotional disorder of needing to win every argument. So that suits itself well to law, and a lot of people have that issue in this field. Although it is also it can be a conciliatory field. So there's a lot of areas of law which you're trying to avoid going to court. You try and reach settlements. And when I'm not doing the gun stuff, because obviously California is never ever going to settle with us on anything until they've already lost.
Yeah.
So when I'm not doing the gun stuff, it is nice to work in those sorts of fields where compromise and resolutions are possible. So yeah.
Well, that's. I mean, and you've been actually. So you went to school for your bachelor's degree. So you started. How long is it? Like, was it 2014 that you actually started the actual litigation stuff?
No, I graduated in 2014. I failed the bar once, and then I passed it the second time. So I actually got sworn in as an attorney in 2015.
Okay.
Because I was watching House of Cards during the bar preparation course. Great show, by the way, the first couple seasons.
Oh yes.
But not the best when you're trying to. And that was just me being an arrogant dipshit, because I'm not. I don't know if I'm allowed to curse on here.
You're
I'll
fine.
be more
You're
careful.
fine.
But that was me being arrogant because I had never failed any academic test in my life. So I'm like, of course the bar is no different. And I failed the bar, and then so I took it seriously the next time and passed. But yeah.
What was it that made you want to do Second Amendment litigation? What got you into that part of the field?
I think I've talked about this before elsewhere, and I have sort of a windy history with the Second Amendment. I was never anti. I used to be a much more, left-wing person than I am now, and I was never anti-gun just because I grew up with my dad, who is a big-time hunter, and we've always had guns in the house. But I was one of those fuddy sort of like, oh, why do you need something more than a shotgun or a pistol? Why do you need your AR-15? And at the time, I can't say I really still hold these feelings, but at the time, Donald Trump struck me as a very authoritarian candidate, and that kind of woke me up to the view of what the Second Amendment was originally for. Not that I was like, I wasn't worried that, oh, Trump's going to get elected and it'll be Auschwitz the next month. No, but it kind of lit that spark of like, okay, this could get bad in theory under somebody more competent. And now, ironically, I'm probably going to vote for Donald Trump in 2024. That's how much I've shifted. But the principle still remains, and I would encourage people who still fear Trump in that way. Hey, that's one of the reasons the Second Amendment exists. Hopefully, we never have to resort to that anti-tyranny purpose, but that's why it is there.
It's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. Yeah. And I agree with you on that reasoning in regards to your feelings on Donald Trump. You've got all these. I mean, I saw all these people complaining and everything. It's going to be tyranny. It's going to be chaos. Yada yada yada. And I'm like, well, aren't you glad you have your Second Amendment rights? But these are, of course, the same people that are anti-Second Amendment. So I guess the I can't talk. Irony is lost on them, perhaps. And I've seen some of your posts about Donald Trump, and I mean, perfectly valid. I'm not going to argue that point. I'm a New Yorker, and everybody in New York pretty much thinks Don's an asshole.
He is an asshole. He shouldn't be president. He's the worst candidate running for president right now, except for the incumbent. So that's where we are.
Yeah,
that's how I see it.
I mean, I'll agree to disagree on some things in regards to that, but that's for another show.
No, like I agree. We can set it aside, but I want to be clear. Me voting for Donald Trump is not an endorsement of him as fit for office or an endorsement of everything he says or does. No, it's just a shitty situation.
Yeah,
that's where we are. And it's about judges for me.
Yeah, and the last election, the first one with between him and Hillary, it was like, I was leaning more towards Bernie, and then they kicked Bernie out, and it was like, okay, I'm gonna go with the devil that I can, But anyway, so I wanted to bring up something here because I wanted to get your take on this. This has been a hot button issue. I've talked about it on the regular show, and Tennessee recently passed legislation to allow teachers to arm themselves if they want to. And we were talking before we went on here. You're a new parent. I'm a parent. I got an older kid. I got a 22-year-old and I got a 9-year-old. And what was your opinion before with arming teachers, and what's your opinion now? How has that changed now that you are a parent? With that view of arming teachers, has it changed? Has it shifted? What's gone through your head?
No, this whole controversy is stupid in my opinion. I mean, the law would make it so that teachers who, first of all, want to be armed. So there's this whole slogan of this is arming teachers. No state in the country arms teachers. What this would do is that teachers who want to carry and get permission from the school district to carry. So who knows if these school districts will even allow it?
Yeah.
But so first they have to want to carry. They have to get permission. Then they have to get training to do it. And if they go through all that, I just don't get the controversy. I mean, if a teacher wanted to harm, God forbid, wanted to harm a student, they wouldn't care. They would just carry concealed. Nobody would know nobody would know, because if they're bent on doing the horrific crime of aggravated battery or murder of with a firearm of a child, then I don't think they're going to stress they're not going to sweat the concealed carry charge on school property. So this, I also don't think, look, this isn't a panacea for school shootings either. There might be some, I could see it going, like, if somebody wants to commit a school shooting, I could see them thinking twice about going to the school where there might be armed teachers. I'm not saying it'll necessarily stop them, but it could. They might say, I'll go to this school instead of that school because that one has armed teachers. So it's a rational thought that could happen. I don't really think, given all the constraints around it, that there's any danger to students. And of course, there are school districts in the country that have been doing this for years and there haven't been any issues. In fact, I think the only issues we have seen with guns in schools, other than obviously school shootings, would be police officers leaving them in the bathroom or something. It's usually we have a long list, and I'm not bashing cops, but there's a pretty long list of cops doing stupid things with guns. So I don't understand this fear of teachers. That's that. Sorry, I rambled a bit.
No, you're fine. You're fine. You're allowed to ramble. That's the nature of the question. I mean, it's not a simple yes or no type of situation, and I agree. It's not a panacea. It's not the
I think I lost you.
No, am I here? What? No, I still see you. Do you see me? Uh-oh. Are you there? Oh no, what happened? Everything's working. Is it you just can't hear me? Oh, your mic went static and then you died there. Oh boy. Ladies and gentlemen, modern technology.
How about now?
Now I got you.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with my system today. Sorry about that. So restart your question.
Yeah, no,
I didn't catch any of that.
So, I mean, my question, basically I was just kind of starting out with agreeing with you that it's not a panacea. It's not the final ending of the issue. It's I think it's more of a treatment for the symptoms that we're experiencing of school shootings. But I mean, there's still that underlying cause, and until you figure out what that is and put that to bed, unfortunately, we're still going to be in that situation. But I think this is a good first step to help mitigate those issues where it's going to make somebody think twice. We already saw that with Covenant. I mean, the shooter at Covenant said that they chose one school, but decided to pass on it because of the security. But the other thing I wanted to also bring up about this is Tennessee being, since it's just so new now, What do you the training and the requirements that they're requiring? I don't know if you know too much about it, if you followed it. I wanted to get your thoughts on those. I mean, just to kind of give you a little bit of a laundry list. They do have to get the, as you said, they do got to get permission from the district, or the, superintendent or whoever. They also have to have 40 hours of specialized training. I can't remember what else, but there was a few other things that were kind of getting close to, like, stuff that like New York would require here for concealed carry. I was wondering what your thoughts were, if you had any on those requirements. Do you think it's too much, or you think it's just right, or need more? What?
It's probably too much in that you've probably hit diminishing returns at that point. I don't think much more than the CCW courses you typically take would matter, but it's probably about, hilariously, I think they probably added that to protect against political blowback, but they still got the political
They still got
blowback anyway.
yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know what the goal was there, but it's just something that it's another reason why this is a stupid story, because almost nobody's going to do this, frankly. Like, I don't think, it would take a very determined teacher. I would do it if I were a teacher, but I think most teachers probably aren't gun owners. They tend to skew, that's
Yeah.
just demographically, that's true.
Yeah.
They probably aren't gun owners, and so you would need a teacher who wants to do this, wants to get permission, wants to you know take a position that's that's very unpopular among teachers and among schools. Get that permission, and then take a long course to train for it. All of this should have been, that's why this whole thing is kind of silly on both ends. It's silly on the
Right.
anti-gun side because it's not going to matter. It's silly on the pro-gun side because they're not really letting teachers carry. They kind of are, but
Yeah.
only if you go through this ridiculously long process. So this story's stupid. Like,
Yeah.
if they wanted to go for it, they should have just gone for it, and maybe had a little extra. If you take your CCW course and then maybe do one more 8-hour course about guns and children, and
Right.
making sure you're conscious of all times of where your firearm is on your person, all that, etc.
Right.
Maybe they would even need a active retention system instead of a passive retention system, just in case
Yeah.
some little hand got on it. So that's the kind of stuff that would make sense. Of what you're describing is silly to me. But
Yeah. I mean, one of the other things about it was basically the teachers are on the hook for the money, for any of the extra training that they need. I mean, I feel like that would have gone a lot better. Well, I mean, but to your point, there's probably not going to be a lot of teachers that do it.
Yeah.
But I feel like that giving them like some kind of a break or an incentive or something, to make it a little bit easier to get there, if somebody really was or wanted to, in regards to, maybe they have a change of heart based on, whether it's the facts, God help them, or just maybe, something happened that, like with me. I mean, I've always been pro gun ever since I was in, a teenager and everything. With the first AWB, I was like, this ain't going to do anything, all that kind of stuff. But, living on my own, I was a single dad, and yeah, we had a break-in where I was living in Rapid City, South Dakota, in North Rapid. It's not exactly the nicest place, but it's cheap, and there's a reason why it's cheap. But yeah, that convinced me even more so that you got to have a firearm if you want to protect yourself. So I'm kind of hoping that a situation like that doesn't happen to a teacher, where they end up that's the reason they change their mind, But I'm hoping that maybe somebody has a come to Jesus moment where they decide, yeah, this might be a good idea if I do get the training. But I mean, what do you personally see? I mean, I know I can't ask you what could happen with the law and all that kind of stuff, because that's like, I know you didn't bring your crystal ball, and it really doesn't work that way. I mean, do you see personally a pitfall to, if a teacher does up and decide to, to carry? What do you see as an upside? What do you see as a downside in that regard?
A downside is that I guess in theory you could have a freak situation. Like if you're absent-minded and you're going to leave the gun lying around somewhere, do not carry out of school. That's very dangerous. So
Yeah.
you have to know yourself. And if you think you can't do this, then don't do it. Leave your the fact of the matter is a school shooting is a very remote possibility.
Yeah.
And if you are competent enough to carry that there is no risk of any unintentional harm ever happening, then that's fine to defend against that remote possibility. You carry just in case that day ever comes. But if you are absent-minded, then it's much more likely harm is going to result from you leaving the gun somewhere, than any
Right.
school shooting. So I think that's what I would say is the downside. I guess in theory, you could have some freak situation where there is a mass shooting and you shoot at the shooter, but then you accidentally miss and hit a bystander, but that's the case for anyone with the
Yeah.
CCW anywhere, not just in a school. You're liable for every shot you take. And I just want to note, as I always do, that there's exceedingly few examples of people with CCW permits shooting bystanders. It's happened, but it's very rare. And the reason it's very rare is I think people with CCW permits know that unlike cops, they are going to be liable for every shot they take. So they
Right.
tend to only take shots when they're confident they will hit. Otherwise, they don't take the shot. Whereas cops much more often shoot bystanders because they have qualified immunity. And
Yeah.
when there's that's why they shoot bystanders all the time,
Yeah.
because I'm not saying they want to hurt people. I'm not anti-cop, but I do think that they have that peace of mind knowing that they got to get the perp, they got to shoot the perp, and
Yeah.
if some God forbid somebody gets in the way, like
Yeah.
I'm not going to prison for it. But a person with CCW permit is, or at least will be civilly liable in a way a cop will not be. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. So a good argument for getting something like USCCA or attorneys on retainer or something along those
Yeah.
lines.
Yeah.
It's and I've had that thought myself about getting something like that. But then also with all of that in regards to the litigation that comes with that kind of stuff, if God forbid that does happen, and also just the whole 2A sphere in particular with the laws, especially how the anti-gunners, they tried to get this thing stopped dead in its tracks, which didn't obviously work very well, in comparison to like what you and CPR, California Pistol Rifle Association did with like what was it, 1160, for the registering of the firearms and the renewal every year. You made a very good comment at the beginning of April, and this is what made me want to reach out to you to have this conversation online. This was a really good tweet. You said it takes way more time and money to litigate against bad laws than it does to defeat them in the legislature. In California, that is tough to do, but sometimes we pull it off with particularly bad bills like this one, and that was referring to SB 1160. I mean, how big of a difference are we saying here in regards to the litigation and trying to stop it in the legislature before it even hits the governor's desk?
Well, in California, I mean, we do our best. CRPA, our team in Sacramento, does their best to kill stuff, and with this one, they succeeded. But the marquee bills always pass. I mean, we saw there was a huge failure with, well, what it's now called SB2, but at the time it was SB 918. They got too greedy and they tried to pass it with an urgency clause, which required a 2/3 majority, and they fell a couple votes short. So that's why our sensitive places law didn't come till a year after everyone else's. But the next time they wised up and they just did a simple majority. It took effect in January, or it was going to take effect until we got it enjoined. So litigation is much more costly. It takes a lot longer. You have to deal with judges ruling in bad faith, which will drag you into appeals. So
Yeah.
even a case that seems simple um, might not be. I mean, I know are you in New York? You said.
Yeah, I'm in New York. Yeah, I'm
So you
literally
got
like,
so you know all about Antonyuk. In that
oh
case,
yeah,
my buddy Steven Sambulia is litigating it, and they
yep,
won in the district court. And then the Second Circuit just stayed it for what, over a year, and
yeah,
then they finally, even though they stayed it for that, then they at least struck down the vampire rule, but the rest is in effect for the sensitive places. And now we got to see if the Supreme Court gets around to it. And maybe the Supreme Court will say, no, we'll wait for a final judgment, because that's what they often do.
yeah,
And so you could end up having 4 or 5 years before a bill is killed, and then they'll just pass another one, once you're done. So it's much easier to win elections and stop bills in the legislature than it is to rely on the court system because the court system is slow and expensive and often disappointing.
And it takes and just so much time. I mean,
Hmm.
I know you've seen the posts on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, in regards to just how slow the wheels of justice just grind and just go. I mean, even with Antonyuk, with that first go when they smacked it down on standing, and then they came around a second time. But you're right, and then you look at like, say, Bianchi v. Brown right now. That went through all of that 14 months before the ninth. The I keep wanting to say Ninth Circuit.
Well, they're the usual villain, the
They're
fourth
the
circuit,
usual
though, is what
villain,
you're
yeah.
thinking of.
But yeah, the Fourth Circuit there decided. It took them 14 months before they decided. For them to even grab it en banc, which was just like almost, it was kind of like, catching the madam of the property in her boudoir, and you're not supposed to be, but yeah, you kind of get what I'm saying. I mean, do you feel that frustration as much as we do, or I mean, you're not bald, so I'm guessing you're not pulling your hair out too badly.
I feel the frustration for sure. It might be because I'm jaded at this point because I've been doing this now for 5
You're
years, and some of
expecting
my
it.
colleagues have been, some of my colleagues have been doing it much longer. I was joking on Twitter the other day how I discovered Michelle and Associates because of Magazine Freedom Week. That was Duncan, their case. And then around 2020, 2021, I got really excited because I got to work on the case that brought me to Michelle and Associates,
Oh,
Duncan,
that's
right?
cool. Yeah.
Very cool. And now I'm exasperated because I'm still working on that fucking case, and I probably will be forever. So I mean, and I'm not the primary attorney. My colleague Anna handles that, but I've helped out a lot on it, and I probably will be for years to come. So hopefully, I mean, hopefully with Duncan in particular, hopefully we get a ruling. It'll probably be bad given the composition of the en
Yeah.
banc panel, and then we'll go to the Supreme Court. They could, drag us around a bit more though by remanding it for some reason, and sending,
Yeah.
just make us go around, play the wait till Clarence Thomas dies game, because that's what they're hoping for. So that's where we're at, and I'm a bit jaded, uh,
Yeah.
but we're gonna keep trying. We're gonna do the best we can.
Yeah, because there was another post you had, one of your really long ones. I'll kind of, about the frustration. You said when the Second Circuit stayed the district court in Antonyuk, they let that stay in place for over a year, even as they went on to very easily strike down the one major part of the law when they did finally issue a ruling, which was the vampire rule. Had they had some point lifted the stay as to just that part of the law when it became clear to them it wasn't a close question, it would have restored some meaningful right to carry far sooner. And that's something, that we always see. And you mentioned it even later on in this post, that somebody appeals something, especially like with the ATF, with the frames and receivers and all that. Garland asks for, hey, we want to, they go to SCOTUS and say, we want to, enjoin this. And SCOTUS says, yep, sure. Okay. You got it. Boom. And it's like all the time with everything. Meanwhile, people's Second Amendment rights are, and I know I'm preaching to the choir on this, they're constantly being infringed. I mean, what's your thought on what's the best way to, I mean, is there anything that we can really do to kind of nudge these things along, or even just, make it a better, well, lack of a better word, experience for just trying to get our rights back?
Unfortunately, there's no shortcut. You got to win elections. I
Mm.
mean, that's you got to. The person who appoints the judges wins, like that, and it's sad that it's that way. And there are, thank God, exceptions to that rule. You do get the occasional, Obama or Biden appointed judge that rules for us. It
Yeah.
happens. And vice versa. We have judges that Trump appointed that are not favorable to us. So it does happen, but generally you can predict the way a judge is going to go based on on this issue, not on all issues, but on constitutional issues. The president pretty much determines the political philosophy of the appointee. because that's why they choose them. Now, yeah, there should be more pressure on appeals court. As an attorney, I can't really do this, but Anton Yuck's a great example. They issued that stay, but appeals courts are free to modify stays whenever they want. They don't have to leave the stay in place till they reach a ruling. So what they should have done is, once they took a closer look at this and said, wow, all these courts have struck down the vampire rule and we don't buy their argument at all, they could have, the day after oral argument last year,
Mhm.
issued saying, ruling's coming, guys, but for now we're dissolving the stay as to the vampire rule. Because at least then people, there's still a lot of other places that are restricted, but at least with the vampire rule uh, uh, provision enjoined again, people would have some meaningful right to carry. You can go to most places, because
Yeah.
most places people go to are privately owned businesses. So they should have dissolved that immediately. The fact that they waited, until a year
Yeah.
later on their ruling, why did you wait till then? This is people's lives. You knew this was a bad provision that you were going to strike down. So why did you have to wait till the ruling? They should be more willing to dissolve this stuff while they're considering the ruling, I think.
And this, and yeah, and this comes back to basically voting, getting the politician in that's going to put the, the judges in that are actually going to, want to uphold the Constitution. So I mean, it's a good message to, to say, you got to vote. If you don't, then you're just, you can bitch, but it's not going to do any good, and you kind of blew your point to the matter of, well, you can't do anything now because you didn't vote.
Yep.
So, and I know you got a heart out. We're kind of getting up to that. I wanted to make sure that we respected
We're
your
okay.
time.
We're good.
Okay.
We're good.
All right. So, I mean, we delved into some, kind of, two-way community, things in regards to issues and litigation and that. I wanted to get into some, some more of the lighter fare when it comes to the two-way community. What's your biggest pet peeve about the two-way community? The two-way space. What's a pet peeve that you're ready to like rage quit?
Well, big reason. I don't know about rage quit, but a big reason. A big reason I got into this whole. The reason I started posting on Twitter was because I didn't really like our level of discourse. Like, if I have to
Mhm.
read one more time, like, oh, what stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy. Oh my God, shut up.
Yeah,
That's not,
yeah,
that doesn't convince anyone. Like, stop with the slogan arguments. I don't think that works. I don't think it convinces anyone who's not already convinced. Yeah, sure, all these slogans have kernels of truth to them, but
yeah.
have an actual discussion, or arguments by trickery. Like,
Mm,
look, I have to be careful here. I love the NSSF. Larry Keene's a great guy. Modern sporting rifles is a bullshit term. Everyone knows it's a bullshit term. And they say it because it's politically safe to say modern sporting rifle. An AR-15 is a combat weapon. It was designed that way. And yes, I acknowledge there's a huge difference between an AR-15 and M16, and that the AR-15 cannot go full auto. That is I know the anti-gun side tries to downplay that, but
yeah,
that's a important difference. But that does not change the fact that these were designed to be combat rifles, and there's nothing wrong with that. That doesn't mean they can't be used for home defense or hunting, of course,
yeah,
and that's mostly what they are used for. But these were designed as combat weapons, and that's okay, because the Second Amendment defends the right to own weapons of the small arms of modern warfare. That's what the intention of the founding fathers was,
yeah.
and we shouldn't hide from it. Because, and I posted about this yesterday too. It's a little frustrating to me, and even as an attorney arguing some of these cases, that we kind of gimp ourselves when we say, like, oh, people just want these for the lawful purpose of self-defense. That's true, but that's very easy for a hostile judge, to then
Yeah.
say, well, a shotgun or a 1911, as we saw yesterday in Washington, that seems adequate for self-defense, and they're right. It is. I mean, for most people, a 1911 or a shotgun, revolver, whatever, all these fuddy guns
Mhm.
are going to do the self-defense job adequately. So, and that's interest balancing, and that shouldn't be good enough under Bruin, but they're going to do that anyway. So
Right.
you have to put their back against the wall with the history, with and I'm not saying they'll rule for us. They probably still won't, but it'll make their rulings a lot worse and a lot easier to appeal if they're just disregarding this history of what the purpose of the Second Amendment was. So
Yeah.
I just rambled again. Sorry about that.
No, you're no fine. You're fine. There is no rambling on this show. There is no rambling. Although I do want to say, when you said, that 1911s were a little FUD, the establishment does not endorse or condone such language. That's the opinion of the guest, not us. So I'm sorry.
I actually don't. I don't.
I just don't
mind
want to get thrown under the bus by the 1911.
Oh my god, 1911s are great. If you like, my brother has one. They have the best trigger ever, pretty much. And I wish I could get a 2011 here in California, maybe someday. They're not on the roster, and they're very expensive. But yeah, they are. If you like 1911s, you're not as good as the rest of us. That's pretty much what I'm getting at.
Okay, and that's the end of my show.
Just kidding. I'm just kidding.
But kind of heading on back. We got some live chat going on here. Let's see. Activist judges are a problem. 1911s are fuddy. Oh boy, you actually
are activist judges a problem? No, activist judges are fine. We love them.
Oh, okay.
No issues.
But Joe said 1911s are fuddy. So okay,
It's declared.
It's declared. It's done. But going back to, thanks for being in the chat, Joe. Appreciate it. If anybody else wants to hop in the chat really quick over on Rumble, come on in. I believe you do have to have an account on Rumble, unfortunately. So, but hey, why not? Because then you can catch my show all the time. But
you should do.
Yeah, and we do have some folks on X that are watching now. I'm looking at it right now. 224 people are watching us right now on X. So
really,
yeah.
Why?
I know, right? I'm beating
Friday night, guys.
I'm beating Lumpy Potato and his Rumble Creator Roundtable right now. So okay, I won't tell Lumpy. But anyway. Going back to where I was going to talk to you about, where you said, just the whole slogan thing, good guy with a gun. Yeah, I agree. I feel like the stats are a lot harder for them to come back to in regards, because I did do an episode on I don't know who found it, but I grabbed it. It's a PDF about quote unquote effective messaging for gun control, or, reasonable gun measures, or whatever you want to call it. And literally in there, it says wonky statistics. Avasterbone's in there right now too. But
I don't know who that guy is.
No, nobody knows who that guy is.
He's Twitter regular.
Yeah, some average Joe, he's
the guy's going to get me in trouble. Yeah,
no, Aster, you're a legend, man. You're a legend. The whole, I was watching when you threw up the phone with the FPC logo in front of Dave. Oh, that was beautiful. Oh, bravo.
I really hate how you guys encourage his worst inclinations. You guys are bad influences, and I forbid you from speaking to my son Avsterbone anymore.
I don't know if you've noticed the kind of stuff I post, but I mean.
I didn't, because I had to be careful. I'm like, if I check and he has bad stuff, I'm gonna have to not show up to the show. So I came in blind, and I was hoping I wouldn't get it too spicy in here.
No, it's not. I don't get that spicy. But it's more snark, but still. But going back to the whole slogan thing, the PDF that I was talking about. I mean, they talk about argue from an emotional standpoint, not wonky. It literally says wonky statistics, and you always have those statistics right at hand, which is, I think, probably the best thing to use against these people. I mean, what do you feel like makes the best statistic for the argument in regards to gun? I mean, where do you get your data mostly? That's the question. What do you say is the best effective way of having those statistics at hand, maybe?
I mean, it's practice. Eventually, you argue something over and over again, and you start to memorize it. Like, I tend to rely on the CDC data, because that is it's imperfect, because it mostly gathers when it comes to homicide and suicide, it gathers bodies, right? So what do they call it? What's the name of the person that at the county level who
Coroner?
the medical examiner,
Medical
or the
examiner.
coroner, the medical examiner or the
Okay.
coroner.
Yeah.
Those two will they'll get a body, they'll say what they conclude caused the death, and then they'll report it to the CDC eventually. And that's the most foolproof way. But it doesn't actually. The FBI will try and tell us who the perpetrator is when they can figure it out, but we can't always figure it out. So you can basically conclude things about homicide and suicide based on the factors around the person, their age, their race, their gender, their state of residence, all this stuff. And because we know that homicide tends to be mostly done by males, mostly done intra-racially, so white
Mhm.
people tend to kill white people and black people tend to kill black people. About it's like 80% or more is intra-racial. You can make conclusions about who the perpetrators are, and the FBI data, when it does exist, because it's been kind of crappy the last few years, does tend to confirm that it's not one for one, but it's close. So, but when it comes to making statistical arguments, it's just a matter of practice. Eventually, you start to memorize things when you argue this stuff over and over again. So, just waste a lot of time on Twitter, and you'll be really, really good. You'll
I
be
don't
really
know
good
how
at
many
this stuff.
I don't know how many of your posts I've like bookmarked in regards to statistics, especially the beautiful thread you did on the 19th century that you have pinned to the top of
Oh, yeah,
your
yeah,
profile.
yeah, yeah. The pinned one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
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 actually a law review article now, which,
yeah,
everyone knows, I never cite, I never promote, I don't want people to know about. It's not like I post it all the
yeah, it's
time.
the
So.
why what is it? What I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank. Where was it? They could read it. Where was it? The Wyoming?
It's Wyoming Law Review. Google my name, Google Wyoming Law Review, it'll come up. It's an article I did that recently got published about, the original purpose of the Second Amendment and the commentary around that in the 18th and
Right.
19th century, which goes to my point earlier of what I was talking about. I hope courts consider it, or at least if it's Wyoming, I get that, and it's
Yeah.
not Princeton or Harvard, and I'm not a big academic, but the sources speak for themselves. So even if people don't like my work on it, they should steal the sources I've found, because those are very important.
They're valid sources. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
so it's definitely worth it. And if you want to like slide it my way, I'll definitely throw it into the show notes afterwards, and
Oh,
we'll
sure.
make sure we get some more clicks on that for you. Um, so what and we finally got a Vasterbone to make a Rumble account, so that's good. Now he can follow my show, so I can talk about him more, or he can be a guest on my show. That'd be very nice. Just saying, Avaster. Just saying.
Behave yourself.
Yeah. On my show, you don't have to worry about it. But anyway, yes, elsewhere you should behave yourself. Anyway, so I heard somebody said that you were considered like an influencer now. What does that make you think? How does that affect the gray matter?
I should probably get off Twitter, huh? I feel like it's like a balance. I'm eventually going to hit a certain level of Twitter presence that I'm just not going to be taken seriously in court anymore. So I should probably be careful. I suspect a lot of attorneys in my field probably already kind of don't love that I'm on social media as much as I am. It probably makes them think a little less of me. But whatever. I think the PR effort is just as important as the actual courtroom effort,
Right.
because ultimately this is about educating people, getting them to make better arguments, and yeah, that's it. And after run, you probably will get 5 times the viewers that
Yeah.
I am getting. That's fine. I mean, I'm
That's
not driven by fame here, but
Yeah, that's fine. No, but I mean, but that's the thing though. I mean, you were one of the very first when I started my Twitter account, you were one of the first people that I came across, and I, and after a couple of days of reading your tweets, I was like, yeah, this guy's worth the follow, and so I followed you. And I mean, you've always, and that's the thing I like about your posts, is that you've always come up with the counter to the argument that to me is so logical and just so finessed that it's hard for the other side to try to knock it down. And I do like the fact that you actually get some people to talk with you in a really civil way about this, even though they're totally against it. I think that's something that's really missing, especially with social media, because you got people that are taking their time off and not just trying to get around that. Wow, now the comments are really coming in here.
Yeah, let me respond to one to make sure I don't get myself in trouble. When I talk, I'm not talking about my colleagues at Michelle and Associates, Avsterbone. They're a little amused by the social media, but they don't care. They think it's fine. I'm talking about other lawyers in the field. Probably, I suspect, don't love it, or at least think less of me because of it. But that's okay. Which opinion is worse, the Hawaii Supreme Court decision or the Washington Supreme Court decision in Gator Gun? I'd say Hawaii, because the Washington Supreme Court commissioner ruling was not actually part of that state Supreme Court. It was a commissioner they appointed, and he basically just copied the highlight reel from all the other
Yeah.
cases that have done this. So whatever. I mean, he said some especially silly things. We had our fun. It'll be great. But the Hawaii one was basically it seemed like the state Supreme Court was saying that they don't want to be a part of the United States. So that's not great.
Didn't they try to, in one of their briefs, try to cite territorial law, or no, Kingdom of Hawaii law?
Oh yeah. It had all sorts of stuff like that. They cited, the aloha spirit and all that stuff. It was a very silly ruling, unserious ruling. And I get what they were doing, because at the very end, they technically were not talking about the Second Amendment. That's their point. They were talking about Hawaii state law, and at the very end they said, and this doesn't violate Bruin, even though we don't like Bruin, because Bruin said it's okay to have permits requirements, and this guy didn't get a permit. But of course that's nonsense, because Hawaii wasn't issuing permits to anybody at the time, so it was impossible to get a permit. They didn't address that point at all. So it was just a dumb ruling. I don't know the latest on whether that's going to be appealed to the Supreme Court. I hope it does, and then I hope the Supreme Court actually, they shouldn't grant cert on it, because it's such a simple. They should just summarily reverse it, and send it back down to them. This isn't a case that should be, one of the rare Supreme Court cases. It should just be summarily reversed.
GVR and boom.
Yeah.
Okay. So, if anybody else has got a question, feel free to drop it in the chat here on Rumble. That's okay. We'll throw it up there. But another question I had for you, just kind of going back, not to embarrass you or anything. So like I was saying, you're kind of considered an influencer now. Who are you following? Who are the influencers that are influencing you? Who are the minds behind the mind?
Definitely 2A updates. He's a big one. 2A history.
Yeah. I want Rob on the show. Rob, if you're watching, come on the show sometime. Love to have you.
Yeah, 2A updates. He definitely, he's the best at tracking this stuff. FPC struck gold when they hired him. They were smart to do so. The FPC account, of course, all the big accounts, SAF, FPC, NAGR. They need a better acronym. The National Association of Gun Rights.
That's like the country of Niger. One slip and you're done.
It reminds me of the South Park joke with the people who annoy you. Anyway, that terrible. But Avsterbone, half the stuff he sends me I don't agree with. The other half I repost. So that there's that. There's a lot, and I don't want to insult anyone by not including them, because I interact with so many people on Twitter. Yeah. So if I didn't include you, and that I interact with you all the time, you're one of the people that is important. I just can't remember everyone off the top of my head.
Before you go to bed tonight, just do another Twitter circle and you'll be fine. Yeah.
I've never actually done one of those. I think you've done them for me. Yeah, no, I don't. I don't want to hurt feelings. So,
you're too nice a guy, man. You gotta just go ahead. We don't care. We're tough. We can take it. But so all right. So I'm gonna kind of turn the tables on you now. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna ask you if you have any questions for me. This is not a job interview, but I'm just curious if you had what. So, well, let me put it to you like this: who would you like to ask a question of, and what would that question be? And we'll make.
Oh man, I'd love to. Can I please just have 5 minutes with Justices Alito, Thomas, and I just want to hey, are you guys going to grant a cert, or are we just fucking wasting our time? Because I'll go do trip and fall cases. I'll go actually make some money as a lawyer instead of doing constitutional law. If you guys are just going to fuck us, so are you going to grant cert? Like, don't beat around the bush. It's if you're gonna say no, just say no, so I can walk away.
You're just going to be across the table, and you're going to lean in. You're going to do the finger pointing like Harrison Ford, and you're just going to let him have it.
Or if you're going to make us wait till judgment, fine. But are you actually going to grant cert then? Or are we going to go get these judgments just for you to say, nah, we're not going to review this? That would suck. And I know my colleagues have been doing this for a lot longer than me, but that would be a huge bummer. So if I could ask a question of anybody, it would be the Supreme Court on those things. Yeah.
All right. So Vaster's got another question for you. What is your opinion on the Federalist
Is this just
Society?
becoming an interrogation by
I don't know. Maybe. I mean,
somebody else asked questions too. The Federalist Society is a net good. I think they the judges they asked Trump to nominate have mostly been good. There's obviously some exceptions to that. Judge Bennett, unfortunately, had disappointed us, as did Judge, I think it was Miller with the Nguyen ruling. So and then there's the judge in Oregon, but by and large. Like I said earlier in the show, no president is perfect when it comes to nominating judges, but I think President Trump's nomination, because of the Federalist Society, have been more consistently good than most. That doesn't mean there's not disappointments, but that's where we are.
Okay. There's another question here from California Open Carry.
Oh, I know who this is, Mr. Nichols. Okay.
Okay,
I assume. I don't think so. This has been a long-running thing that Mr. Nichols accuses our firm of, and I have to admit that I started in 2019, so I'm not as up to date on the litigation at the time. I don't think we've opposed open carry. I'd like to see where he asserts that in a brief. It's possible that in arguing for concealed carry, and I think it was the Peruta case, again before my time, that we knew the reality. My colleagues knew the reality on the ground and knew that these judges thought open carry wasn't okay. So they said, this isn't open carry. This is about concealed carry. That's just how you argue cases. It's just like, and I don't love this, but it's just like how lawyers today in several cases will say, well, these aren't machine guns. These are, and that sounds like you're throwing machine guns under the bus, right? And that's not great, but it's just the practical realities of arguing in front of a judge. You have to not scare the shit out of a judge. That's kind of an important important call. But I think I probably owe Mr. Nichols the courtesy of more reading into the stuff that's before my time, the briefing and all that, to give him a more educated response. I probably should get to that. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Fair. I think that's fair enough.
I assume that's Mr. Nichols. I actually don't. If you're not Mr. Nichols, I apologize. That's just who usually throws that criticism at us. So,
Okay.
I wish him all the best in his litigation. I hope he wins. Yeah.
Okay. Great. I mean, Vasterbone threw up another comment here. Yeah, the constant throwing under the bus of machine guns by all 2A orgs to save semi-autos is very annoying.
Look, and I get that, but the Supreme until we change the Supreme Court that we're stuck with. The Supreme Court has made clear they are not striking down the NFA. They might strike down things like the bump stock rule, hopefully, in Cargill and stuff like that because of the APA, because they think not that machine guns are protected, but rather that that Congress needs to ban them. But that oral argument in Cargill should be very depressing to anybody who thinks that this Supreme Court is ever going to overturn the Hughes Amendment. It's not going to happen. If you want that to happen, you have to win elections, you have to replace the court, and better yet, just replace Congress and get them to repeal it so you don't even have to worry about the courts. That would be ideal. So anyway, yeah.
All right. Another question from Joe. What's your best advice to be a legal 2A advocate?
You have to be, it's hard to do constitutional law in general. It's kind of a minor miracle I got into it. You have to really care about this. You have to be good at writing. I'm only okay at writing, but you have to be good at writing. You have to really have a good grasp of the material, and it helps to have litigation experience already, but it is true that this is different than other fields. Constitutional law in general is very law intensive and less fact intensive. There's some cases that are different, but also an indirect side of things for the org like CRPA and other clients we have. But you could also go into criminal defense. Like there's a lot of these big cases come out of the criminal field, not actually out of the civil field. We have one I'm reading about a case right now in the 11th Circuit where a public defender is arguing that the NFA is unconstitutional because his client got caught with a short-barreled rifle, and they're arguing that's unconstitutional. So that's just a public defender, and he's doing the best he can. But that's where, and if you go into public defense, obviously not every case is going to be a big Second Amendment case, but
Right.
it's a good way to get to deal with not just one type of constitutional law, but all sorts of constitutional issues. Because a lot of criminals are indeed scumbags, but you will have some clients that are actually innocent, or if not innocent, at least have constitutional rights that are being infringed, and are worth protecting. So,
Right.
yeah.
Okay. I'm looking to see if there's any other questions. California Open Carry had another question kind of going along. We'll make this like the last one. I believe he also said earlier that is Mr. Nichols. So where's the NRA CRPA amicus brief in support of the Baird v. Bonta handgun open carry appeal? That one.
Have they filed their appeal yet? I need to keep track. I don't keep actually.
I
He's going to think I'm dodging, but I'm not. I don't actually keep track of when every single case is filed, but I'll look into that. And if we can squeeze it in, we can. So here's my conceptual. Let's talk about this.
okay.
My conceptual issue with open carry, it's not an issue really. I think it's very clear that in the 19th century, open carry was generally allowed and concealed carry was generally not allowed. What the judge in Baird v. Bonta is basically arguing, and it's not the worst argument I've ever heard. There's a lot of judges that made some bad arguments. Hers is not the worst. Her opinion boils down to this: if states in the past could restrict concealed carry, but say you could open carry, why can't they do the reverse today? Why is that not analogous to say, because they're still regulating the method of carry, right? They're saying, well, now it's socially acceptable to conceal carry, but not open carry. So it's at least a better argument than what most judges are doing. I still think ultimately open carry should prevail because, again, you have almost no bans of open carry in the 19th century, but you have lots of bans on concealed carry. Not a majority, but a good amount. And so I think that's the best argument for the plaintiffs. But I think I'll have to read the briefing, but I think the Baird plaintiffs will need to rebut that argument of why the government can't just switch its preference on if it could govern the method of carry before, why can't it still do it in a different way today? As for an amicus brief, that's a fair point. I'll look into that and see if we have anything to contribute. There's a lot of cases we do not submit amicus briefs on, even though they're very important cases. For I think Teeter v. Lopez, that's a huge case. I don't think we've done an amicus brief on that one, and it just comes down to a matter of time. We have a limited amount of time. We do a lot of amicus briefs, but we don't do them on every single case as much as we would love to. So, yeah.
Avaster coming back again. What's your favorite box in the 4 boxes of Liberty? Hint, perhaps you should pick the one based on a very handsome YouTuber with totally red hair. I have brown hair, Avaster. Where are you seeing? Is my camera color bad? I'm looking. I don't know. What
is it? The soap box, the ballot box, the jury box, and the bullet box, right? I would. What's my favorite box is the soap box, because in a high functioning society, you can convince people with your arguments, and you don't need to resort to. I mean, hopefully not even voting, but voting's great. And jury box, you're already pretty screwed, and the bullet box, nobody wants that. It's a last resort. And if it comes to that, we've already lost, I think. I mean, not lost, because it's some things are still worth fighting for, but I don't want my daughter to grow up in a war-torn Civil War hellhole. That's not what I'm looking for. And yes, I did get the Mark 4 boxes diner reference. I'm just trying to seriously answer your question.
I was going to be like, wait a minute, that's definitely a thing for Mark. So
right.
Let's see. Vassar says he always makes that joke. I smashed the like button just like I smashed my football coach's hot wife last night. Thanks, Cheddar.
Good stuff.
good stuff. There's always that one. There's always that one guy, Vaster, saying it's a great show. Thank you, Vaster. I'm pretty pleased with it. And Kostas, I'm glad that you came on. I know you do have a heart out here, and I want to respect your time. Because you are a family man, you got family stuff you got to do. So, but yeah, once again, thanks for coming on the show. I really do appreciate it and taking the time. And you're always welcome to come back on the Freedom Otter Show. And yeah, thanks for being my my first quote unquote guest.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And maybe if we have news sometime soon, I'll come on again. We'll talk about it.
That would be great. Thanks, man.
All right. Thanks, everybody. And thanks for all the questions, everybody. Great talking to you. Have a great evening, great weekend, too.
Yeah,
all right.
Great. Have
Bye,
a good
guys.
night, Kostas. Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, guys. That's Kostas Moros, 2A attorney and social media influencer. And yeah, this I feel like this went pretty great. If you do like the show, if you like the content I'm doing, give me a like. If you're on Rumble, give me a like, share, follow, everything. Also, in the show notes, I got a Discord. I got a 2A community I'm building. You're more than welcome to join that. That would be fantastic. Would love to hear your thoughts and comments. And also, I do have a merch store that helps support not only this channel, but also my gaming channel. You can go to ottermanempire.creator-spring.com and check out all the goodies and swag that we got. And if you like something, please purchase. They're great for gifts. They're great for yourself. They're great for the kiddos. I got some kid stuff in there as well. This is definitely not going to be the last Extra Otter show. This is the first go at it, and I think it went swimmingly. And if you do too, by all means, like I said, please hit that like button. And we streamed. I didn't even check to see how well we did on YouTube. We've got 17 right now here on Rumble, and over on X, we are at 308. And I'm taking a screenshot of that because I'm beating out Lumpy Potato right now. And I like Lumpy. Lumpy's a cool guy, and I'm beating him out. But if you also want to read Kostas's law review from the Wyoming Law, I'll put that in the show notes afterwards. He sent me the link so I can throw that in there, and that's great. So, but thanks once again to everybody for joining me on the show. I do appreciate it, and I usually do shows every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Normal time is 9:30 p.m. Eastern time. So, with that, I will say, keep your head on a swivel and act accordingly. We'll catch you later.